I thought my wife was just working late, until I found the app that revealed everything. Hey folks. I've been hanging around this subreddit for a while, just quietly reading other people's stories. Never really thought I'd be writing one myself, but here I am. My name's David. I'm 36 years old and my wife, her name's Lauren, is 34. We've been together a long time, going back more than 10 years, and we've been married for the last 8. From the outside looking in, our relationship probably seems strong. Sure, we had the typical arguments here and there like any married couple, but I always believed we were in a good place. That belief is what makes all of this feel like such a blow to the chest. Thinking back now, maybe the warning signs were there all along. Just small things, little details I shrugged off at the time. Lauren has always had this way of making things happen for herself. Whether it was scoring a promotion, getting a friend to do her a favor, or planning a spontaneous weekend getaway, she had a knack for persuasion. And yeah, there was a sharp edge to her, a kind of confidence that intimidated some people. But I respected that about her. I admired her drive, her independence. I saw it as strength. But something shifted about 6 months ago. She started pulling away, emotionally, physically, just us. At first, I chalked it up to her being drained from work. She's got a demanding role in corporate law, and we've always been mindful of each other's responsibilities and long hours. But this time it felt off. She was guarding her phone more, locking it when she didn't used to, staying out late more often, saying she was with friends or stuck at the office. I tried to convince myself I was just being insecure. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who jumps to conclusions without proof, who becomes possessive or starts tossing around baseless accusations. I had faith in her, in us. And honestly, that trust is what kept me from asking hard questions sooner. It's also the reason I'm sitting here now writing this. It wasn't in her texts or call history where I found it. It was in her email, tucked away under a folder labeled Client Meetings. At first glance, I thought it was just typical work correspondence, but once I opened them up, it was painfully clear these weren't about business at all. The emails were personal. Every line between her and someone named Alex carried a tone I hadn't heard from her in a long time, not since the early days of our relationship. It wasn't outright inappropriate, but it was intimate, familiar. And that alone made my stomach turn. One message in particular stopped me cold. Last night was incredible. I can't get you off my mind. Let's make it happen again soon. Reading those words felt like the ground was shifting under me. It hit like a sucker punch, one I never saw coming. In that moment, every lingering doubt I'd tried to dismiss, every gut feeling I'd pushed aside, they all came rushing back with painful clarity. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was real. And it hurt more than I could have imagined. I placed the phone back on the nightstand where I found it, hands trembling. My thoughts were all over the place, spiraling faster than I could control. I sat there in the dim glow of our bedroom, the sound of the shower running behind the door, trying to piece together how the woman I loved could be sharing those kinds of words with someone else. Sleep didn't come that night. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind racing with questions I didn't have answers for. Who was this Alex? How long had they been seeing each other? And what else had she been hiding from me? The days after were a blur. I was walking around in a fog, pretending everything was normal when nothing felt normal anymore. I knew I couldn't call her out on it just yet. I needed something more solid, something that she couldn't talk her way out of. But that didn't last long. The pressure inside me was building and I couldn't hold it in forever. It all came to a head a few nights later. We were both in the living room, me half watching some show on TV, her buried in her phone, texting like her life depended on it. And all I could think about was whether she was messaging him again. Whether Alex was on the other end of that screen, getting the attention and affection that used to be mine. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. The words just burst out. Lauren, who's Alex? The room went still. She froze, didn't even blink for a moment. Then she turned toward me with that classic innocent look I knew too well, the kind she used when she wanted to dodge a tough question. What are you talking about? She asked, sounding more annoyed than alarmed. I saw the emails, I told her, voice cracking just a bit. You and him, don't act like I don't know. Her expression shifted, but not in the way I hoped. No guilt, no remorse. Just sharpness. She didn't even try to explain, just threw it back at me. You were reading my emails? Seriously, David? I knew it. I knew she'd try to flip it around to make me the one in the wrong. I took a deep breath, trying not to let the anger take over. I didn't want to. But you've been acting different for months. I had to know what was going on. She rolled her eyes like I was overreacting. Then she said it, casually, like she was talking about some boring coworker. He's just someone from the office. We've grabbed drinks a few times. That's all. That's all? I repeated, almost laughing from the disbelief. You expect me to believe that after what I read? Nothing happened, she said, brushing it off like I was making a mountain out of a molehill. We're just friends. You're reading way too much into it. But I wasn't. I knew what I saw. I remembered every word in that email. And now, sitting across from her, hearing her minimize it, it just made it worse. It felt like I was being gaslit in real time. You don't talk to friends like that, I said quietly, holding back tears. She let out another sigh, this time more dramatic, like she was tired of dealing with me. Okay, yeah, maybe I flirted a little. But it didn't mean anything. It was harmless. You're blowing this out of proportion. Flirting. Harmless. My chest felt tight. I didn't even know what to say. How could she act like this wasn't betrayal? Like she hadn't just shattered the trust we spent years building? I whispered it more to myself than to her. I don't even recognize you anymore. That's when she softened, or at least pretended to. She walked over and touched my arm. David, I love you. You know that. I'm sorry if I crossed a line. But it's you I want. It's always been you. Her words were hollow. They sounded right on paper, but in the moment they rang empty. No real apology. No ownership. Just a vague attempt to smooth things over. And the sad thing is, it worked. At least for a little while. I wanted to believe her so badly, I let it slide. I didn't push further. Not that night. Later, lying in bed beside her, I couldn't sleep. My eyes were fixed on the ceiling, my mind spinning. A part of me wanted to let it go, to believe her when she said nothing happened. But the deeper part, the one that knew her best, kept whispering that the truth was still out there. This wasn't over. Not even close. After that night, something in me shifted. I started paying more attention to everything. Where Lauren went, who she talked to, how she looked at me, even the smallest changes in her behavior. It wasn't just the emails anymore. It was the way her whole presence felt off. Every word, every glance, every excuse became part of this puzzle I couldn't stop trying to solve. I realized I couldn't rely on her to give me the truth. If I wanted answers, I had to find them myself. So one night, while she was asleep beside me, I slipped out of bed and reached for her phone again. I know, I've said before I hated the idea of going through her stuff. But I was desperate. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, and I needed something real, something that would either put my fears to rest or confirm what I'd been dreading. She still had the phone locked, but I knew the passcode. I opened it and went straight to her messages. Just like before, nothing. Nothing unusual in her texts or call logs. But then I remembered something from the first time I checked. She had this app one didn't recognize, something with a neutral icon and a name that sounded like it could be for work or finance. I hadn't given it much thought then. But now, it felt like a breadcrumb. I tapped on the app. There it was. A whole world she had hidden from me. Dozens of conversations. Long, emotional messages. And not just from Alex. There were a few others, names I didn't know, people I'd never heard her mention. And these messages weren't innocent. They weren't just friendly chats. They were personal, intimate, detailed. I read about hotel meetups, late-night rendezvous, the kind of closeness that should have belonged to us, but didn't anymore. Every word felt like a blade. One message from Alex stopped me cold. A whole weekend together at a hotel. A weekend she had told me she was working overtime on a tough case. She had looked me in the eye and lied to me without even blinking. I sat there, phone in hand, heart pounding so hard it felt like my chest would explode. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even cry. I was just numb. But I kept reading. I made myself absorb it all, even when it felt unbearable. I had to see it clearly, how far she'd gone. When I finally put the phone down, I felt like a shell. That wasn't just cheating. It was a betrayal of everything we had built. Of every memory, every promise. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had stomped on it again and again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring into the darkness, trying to figure out how we got here. How she could lie to me so completely. How many times she had kissed me after kissing someone else. By morning I had made a choice. I wasn't going to confront her right away. I knew how quick she was with her words, how she could twist things and leave me second-guessing myself. No, I needed a plan. I needed proof that couldn't be denied. So I started documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, details. I created a file, something private just for me. A place to store the truth so that when the moment came, I'd be ready. But something else was building inside me too. A darker thought. If she could destroy our vows so easily, why was I the one holding on? Why should I be the only one playing by the rules? I hated the thought. I wanted to be better than that. But that quiet whisper in the back of my mind, it was getting louder, telling me I deserved something too. a way to take back control. And that's when things really started to spiral. There was a woman at work, Rachel. She was kind, sharp, beautiful in a quiet way. We'd always had a good rapport, trading stories, laughing during long meetings. I never once thought about her that way. But after everything with Lauren, something shifted. I invited Rachel out to lunch. Just to talk, I told myself. Just to feel normal again. We talked about work, about our weekends. And then she asked how things were going at home. Before I could stop myself, it all came pouring out. Everything. The lies, the emails, the hotel weekend. My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. Rachel just sat there listening. Not judging. Her eyes held something I hadn't seen in Lauren's in months. Genuine care. Compassion. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. It didn't take long after that lunch for things to escalate between Rachel and me. I won't go into the details, this isn't about that, but let's just say the boundaries blurred fast. For the first time in what felt like forever, I had this rush of power, like I wasn't just the guy left picking up the pieces. I was the one making moves now. I was the one stepping over lines instead of just watching someone else erase them. And honestly, it felt good. I knew it wasn't the right way to handle any of it. Deep down, I knew I was just pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. But I didn't care. At that point, I convinced myself I deserved something out of the wreckage Lauren had left behind. I told myself I was leveling the playing field. That maybe she needed to feel just a fraction of what I'd been going through. But even as I clung to that sense of justification, something inside me kept whispering that this wasn't going to end clean. And sure enough, it didn't. Lauren figured it out faster than I expected. Maybe I wanted her to. Maybe some part of me hoped she'd walk in and see me the way I had seen her, caught, exposed, betrayed. That moment came sooner than I thought. One evening, she came home earlier than usual. And there I was, sitting in our living room. With Rachel. The look on Lauren's face. I'll never forget it. She stopped in the doorway like she'd run straight into a wall. Her eyes bounced between the two of us, and you could see the confusion melt into fury like a fuse catching fire. "What is this?" she asked, voice trembling with disbelief and rage. I stood up, trying to appear calm, though my heart was racing. "What do you think it is, Lauren?" Rachel looked devastated, unsure of what to do. She quietly picked up her things and walked out, not saying a word. I didn't stop her. This was something I had to face on my own. "You cheated on me?" Lauren said, her voice cracking as she stared at me like I was a stranger. I let out a bitter laugh, not out of humor but from the weight of everything. "Yeah, I did. How's it feel, Lauren? To be on this side of the lie?" She was stunned, speechless for a beat. Then she tried to deny it, tried to twist the narrative just like before. "What are you even talking about?" "I didn't." "Don't," I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. "I saw the messages. All of them. I know about Alex. I know what you did." Her face went pale. She didn't even try to argue the facts. But instead of accepting the blame, she turned it on me. "You went through my phone?" she snapped. "You snooped on me?" "Don't try to flip this," I shot back. "You cheated. You lied to my face over and over. And now you want to make this about me going through your phone?" She looked like she wanted to scream, but all she could do was clench her fists at her sides. For a long time we just stood there, not speaking, the silence cutting deeper than any insult ever could. "You really think this makes us even?" she said finally, her voice low, flat. "That sleeping with someone else fixes everything?" I shook my head slowly. "No." But it made me feel like I wasn't the only fool in the room. She didn't respond. Just turned and walked out, leaving me standing there with that same empty, sick feeling I'd had since this all started. I thought hurting her back would make me feel stronger. But it didn't. It just made me feel hollow. After she stormed out, the house felt emptier than ever. And yeah, for a moment it felt like a win. But the victory was meaningless. All I'd done was add more wreckage to the pile. In the days that followed, we barely spoke. Lauren stayed out late, sometimes didn't come home at all. I figured she wanted me to feel what I'd made her feel. Maybe she wanted to make me jealous, or maybe she just didn't care anymore. Either way, it didn't matter. I had stopped waiting up. I'd stopped wondering where she was or who she was with. Then one evening, after nearly a week of silence, she walked into the living room while I was sitting there, half watching the news, half staring into space. Her face was expressionless, unreadable. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded. "Yeah, we do." She sat across from me, arms crossed, her posture stiff. For the first time in a while, she didn't look angry. She just looked exhausted. "What do you want, David?" she asked. "You've made your point. You slept with someone else to get back at me. So what now? What's left?" I opened my mouth then closed it. I hadn't thought that far ahead. In my mind, I'd pictured this conversation playing out differently, her apologizing, breaking down, admitting everything. But this was something else entirely. I don't know, I said honestly. I guess I just wanted you to feel what I've been feeling. That's all. She leaned in, her eyes narrowing with a kind of controlled rage. And do you feel better, Did it work? Her voice cut through me. Because from where I'm sitting, you look just as lost as before. I wasn't trying to fix anything, I said. I just didn't want to keep being the only one hurting. She gave a short, bitter laugh. You really don't get it? You think this is a scoreboard? That if we both cheat, the pain cancels out? I didn't answer. There was no point. We were both too far gone. I never thought we'd end up here, she whispered. I know I screwed up. I let things get out of control. But I thought, I don't know, maybe we could fix it. But now, it wasn't just one mistake, I said, voice quiet but steady. I saw all of it. It wasn't just Alex. She didn't deny it. She just looked away. I know, she said finally. I didn't care how much I was hurting you. I was angry and I acted selfishly. But you didn't just cheat. You wanted to destroy me. She was right. And hearing her say it out loud made it harder to breathe. So what now? She asked. You got your revenge. Are we done pretending we can fix this? And in that moment I saw it for what it was. The end. Not just of the fight but of the marriage. The rope we'd been hanging on to had finally snapped. What do you want, Lauren? I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. Do you want out? She didn't answer right away. Just sat there, her eyes drifting off like she was looking past me, at something distant, something only she could see. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than I'd heard in a long time. Not defensive. Not angry. Just real. I don't know, she said quietly. A part of me wants to walk away. Just be done with it. But then there's this other part that hates the idea of quitting. After everything we've been through, it feels wrong to just give up without a fight. Her words hung heavy between us, suspended in the space where all our memories used to live. We'd built a life together, full of laughter, late-night talks, struggles, plans. And now, it felt like we were watching it all slide off a cliff in slow motion. I don't want to give up either, I murmured, mostly to myself. But saying it didn't erase what we'd done to each other. We were shattered in places that didn't have easy repairs. Over the next few days we barely spoke. There weren't any more blow-ups or screaming matches, just silence. A quiet that said more than any argument could. And in that silence it started to hit me, there were no winners here. Lauren had lost control of the illusion she always held so tightly to. And me? I wasn't even sure what I had left. Maybe my sense of identity. Maybe my ability to believe in anything real between us. I thought we were just going to slowly drift apart after that last talk. I figured we'd stay in this holding pattern until one of us finally said the words out loud, let's end it. But then something changed. About a week later, Lauren started acting different. At first, it was little things. She was more patient, more present. She stopped throwing jabs, stopped picking fights. She wasn't pushing me, wasn't pulling away either. Just calmer. And it unsettled me. Because this wasn't the Lauren I had come to know in these past few tense months. Then one night she made dinner. Just out of the blue. She set the table, lit a candle like it was any other night, and sat across from me with a faint smile. It felt surreal, like we were pretending to be our old selves for one more evening. A version of us that hadn't existed in a long time. I didn't trust it. Not yet. We ate mostly in silence until she finally spoke. David, she said, her voice softer than I expected, I've been thinking a lot. About us. About what happened. I braced myself. I figured this was it, her way of telling me it was over. I waited for the "we need to separate" line to fall. But instead she surprised me. I've been seeing someone, she said. A therapist. That caught me off guard. Really? She nodded. Yeah, I had to. I was angry, for a long time. At you, at myself, at life. And I handled it badly. But I've been talking it out. Trying to understand why I did the things I did. It threw me off. This wasn't her usual tactic. She wasn't lashing out or trying to spin things. She was actually taking responsibility, and that shook me more than I expected. What do you want? I asked cautiously. She looked right at me. I want to try. I know it won't be easy. I know we've both made a mess of things. But I don't want to give up without trying to rebuild something. Even if it's from the ground up. I didn't know what to say. My instinct was to push back. To remind her of the pain. The betrayal. The cold nights lying awake wondering who she was with. But then there was this flicker inside me, something I hadn't felt in months. Oh, I don't know if we can fix it, I told her. There's so much damage, Lauren. I don't even know where we'd begin. She nodded, her eyes soft. Neither do I. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we start by figuring out if we even want the same future anymore. And for a moment I could picture it, what trying might look like. The long talks, the therapy, the vulnerability, the honesty we should have given each other from the beginning. But then just as quickly doubt crept in. Could I ever truly forgive her? Could she ever forgive me? I need time to think, I said, feeling the weight of what she was asking. Take all the time you need, she replied. I just wanted you to know I'm not ready to give up. That night I didn't sleep much. My mind was a blur of memories, regrets, and that flicker of something fragile, possibility. And just when I thought she had laid all her cards on the table, she brought up something else. A few days later she suggested we go to therapy together. Couples counseling. She said she wasn't asking for a miracle, just a chance. And I could see she meant it. I didn't say yes right away. I'd already started to detach, already begun imagining a future without her. But her offer, it pulled me back in. I told her I'd go, that I'd show up. But I wasn't making any promises. Not yet. It was a small first step, but I had no idea what direction it would take us. Maybe it would lead to some kind of resolution, closure, healing, something. Or maybe we'd finally accept that we were past the point of repair. Either way, I knew things couldn't stay the same. So I agreed to go to therapy with Lauren, even though deep down I wasn't convinced it would change much. After everything we'd been through, sitting down in a room with a stranger felt like trying to put a band-aid on a bullet wound. Still, there was this sliver of something, hope, maybe, that told me we had to at least try. Even if it didn't save us, maybe it would help us understand how we got here. Our first session was exactly what I expected. Uncomfortable, stiff, and full of silence. We sat across from each other like strangers, barely meeting each other's eyes. Lauren went first, opening up about how disconnected we'd become, how the emotional distance had grown between us. She admitted to the affair with Alex, but she was careful, focused more on how she felt than on what she actually did. As I listened, I felt this strange mix of anger and sadness. A part of me wanted to call her out, wanted to say it wasn't just Alex, that I knew there were others, but I bit my tongue. This wasn't the place to blow up. Not if we were going to get anything out of this. When it was my turn, I didn't hold back. I talked about the night I found the messages, the way it felt like the bottom fell out of my world. I told the therapist about Rachel too, how I had turned around and betrayed Lauren in return. It felt strange saying it out loud, like I was admitting to something I hadn't fully processed myself. Lauren's face hardened when I said Rachel's name. Even after everything she'd done, she still couldn't hide how much that part stung. And honestly, it made the whole thing feel even more complicated. The therapist didn't interrupt much. She just listened. When we finally paused, she looked at both of us and asked a question I hadn't really thought about. You've both done a lot of damage, she said gently. But the bigger question is, do you still love each other enough to try? Are you willing to forgive, not just for what's already happened, but for the hard road ahead if you choose to stay? It was dead silent. Neither of us had an answer. We were teetering on a cliff, unsure if we should jump together or walk away for good. As the sessions continued, I started to see a side of Lauren I hadn't seen in years. She opened up about feeling lost in the marriage, how somewhere along the line she stopped recognizing herself. It didn't justify what she'd done, but it helped me understand it a little better. I had to confront my own shortcomings too. I realized how checked out I'd been, how I'd focused so much on work and routine that I stopped showing up emotionally. I had turned away from her long before she ever turned to someone else. Some days I thought maybe we could claw our way back. Other days I felt like we were just two broken people trying to build something out of rubble. One night, after a particularly heavy session, we sat in the car in silence, parked outside the therapist's office. Neither of us moved. The silence stretched until Lauren finally spoke. I don't know if I can forgive you, she whispered, staring straight ahead. Her words hit me harder than I expected. After everything, after the lies, the hotel weekends, the secrecy, she was the one saying she couldn't forgive me. But strangely I understood. We had both gone too far. I don't know if I can forgive you either, I said, my throat tight. But I'm willing to try if you are. She nodded, but there was a hesitation in her eyes. We both knew trying didn't mean succeeding. And then, just when I thought we were beginning to level out, she dropped something I never saw coming. At our next session, Lauren sat down and looked more shaken than I'd seen her in weeks. There's something I haven't told you, she said quietly. About Alex, it wasn't just one night. My chest tightened. It lasted for months, she continued, her voice cracking. And it wasn't just him. There were others. Time seemed to stop. The air in the room felt thin. My hands went cold and I just stared at her. Others? I had suspected, yes. I knew she hadn't been fully honest. But hearing her say it out loud, watching her face crumple as she admitted it in front of the therapist, it felt like my insides were being pulled apart. How many? I asked, my voice barely there. She didn't answer right away. Just looked down at her hands like she couldn't bear to look me in the eye. I don't know, she whispered. Too many. I wasn't in a good place. I kept looking for something outside because I didn't know how to deal with what was breaking inside me. I sat there, stunned. Hurt didn't even begin to cover it. I thought I'd already seen the worst of it. But this was something else. Something final. It was like she had reached into what was left of us and torn it open again. I've been a quiet observer on this subreddit for a while, reading stories that echoed too closely to the doubts I kept shoving down inside. Never thought I'd be writing my own. But here I am. My name's David. I'm 36. My wife, well, ex-wife now, Lauren, is 34. We were together for over 10 years, married for 8. On the surface it looked like we had it figured out. We fought like any couple, sure, but I thought we were strong. I thought we were solid. Looking back now, the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Lauren was ambitious, driven. The kind of person who could charm her way through anything. I always admired that about her. Her fire, her independence. But somewhere along the way, that drive started to feel like distance. She became colder, more secretive. Started guarding her phone, coming home late more often, saying she was with coworkers or stuck in the office. I told myself it was stress. I convinced myself it was nothing. Then one night, a friend of mine, Mark, sent me a text. Hey man, was Lauren supposed to be working late tonight? I think I saw her at that new bar downtown, with someone. My stomach dropped. I asked her about it later and she brushed it off. Said it was a colleague. Just drinks after work. But something in her voice didn't sit right. That was the start. A few days later, while she was in the shower, I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. At first, nothing seemed off. But then I found an unfamiliar app. One of those encrypted messaging ones. And that's when the truth hit me. There were dozens of messages, not just from someone named Alex but from others too. Long threads, full of flirty comments, intimate details, hotel plans. It felt like I'd been punched in the chest. One message stood out. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. It wasn't just one mistake. It was a pattern. A whole life she had been living without me. I didn't confront her right away. I started collecting proof, documenting everything. I needed the truth even if it shattered me. And in the process, something inside me changed. I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped being the good guy. That's when I let something happen with Rachel, a woman I worked with. She had always been kind, always had a lightness about her. At first it was just lunch. Then it was more. And for a moment I felt like I was in control again. Like I wasn't the only fool in the room. Eventually Lauren found out. She came home early and walked in on me and Rachel. The look on her face, I'll never forget it. You cheated on me? She shouted. I laughed. Bitterly. Yeah. How's it feel? That night was the end of everything we pretended to still have. But oddly enough, it also became the beginning of something else. A few days later she said she wanted to go to therapy. Together. I didn't think it would work. But I said yes. Our sessions were hard. Raw. Lauren admitted to the affair with Alex and eventually I told her about Rachel. We sat across from each other in that therapist's office, holding the broken pieces of our marriage like glass in our hands. The therapist asked if we still had love. If we could forgive, not just for what happened but for what was coming if we chose to rebuild. Some sessions gave me hope. Lauren showed vulnerability I hadn't seen in years. She talked about feeling invisible, like she'd lost herself. I had to admit my own role too, how I had grown distant without even realizing it. Then came the final blow. At one session Lauren looked at me and said, "It wasn't just Alex. There were others." She didn't even know how many. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, realizing I wasn't looking at the woman I thought I knew. Or maybe she had been this person all along and I was just blind to it. That night I packed a bag and left. She didn't try to stop me. I stayed with a friend for a while. Filed for divorce. She didn't contest it. She sent a few texts apologizing but I didn't respond. I didn't need her sorries. I needed space. I needed to breathe. The divorce finalized a few months later. It felt like closing a book I never thought I'd have to finish reading. That's when Sarah came into my life. I had known her through work, different department, just passing conversations. But after Lauren, Sarah felt like fresh air. There was no wait, no games. Just laughter. Peace. Warmth. We started slow. She never rushed me. She listened. And slowly I started to trust again. Fast forward to now, and Sarah and I are still together. It's not perfect, but it's healthy. It's honest. I don't walk around bracing for betrayal. I just get to be myself. As for Lauren, I haven't heard from her in a long time. Last I heard, she was struggling. Some mutual friends said she regrets how things turned out. Maybe she thought I'd always stay. But you can't keep breaking someone and expect them to stick around forever. I don't wish her pain. I just don't think about her much anymore. Life after betrayal is brutal. But it also brings clarity. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it brings someone into your life who shows you what love is supposed to feel like. That's the real end of my story. Not Lauren's betrayal. Not the affair. But standing on the other side of it, healed. With someone who loves me the way I always deserve to be loved. Thanks for reading. If you've been through something like this, I'd really like to hear from you. How did you heal? How long did it take before you trusted again? Let's talk. You're not alone. None of us are.